Well, hi, folks, and welcome into another edition of This Week in Pearl. And boy, have I got one for you today. I'm going to have a special guest coming in by the name of one Honorable Gary Rhodes. Our own Senator Dean Kirby is going to bring him in, and we're going to talk to him kind of as his retirement going out and the experiences that he's had serving as a mayor for 36 years of Flowood and also as a police chief and just growing up. So we're going to have a great time talking to him. So don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll sit down with Gary Rhodes and Dean Kirby. So we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Windham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Welcome back into This Week in Pearl. Now I am excited to bring to you someone that I've been looking very forward to having on this show, and I want to thank our Senator Dean Kirby for bringing him in, which is the Honorable Mayor Gary Rhodes from Flowood. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to this. I really have. When Dean told me that he was bringing you, I was excited. I'm like, awesome. Not only are you our sister city, but you were from Pearl.
Born and raised.
Born and raised right here.
Yes, sir.
And now you're retiring.
Yes, sir.
What's going on with that?
Well, it's always time for somebody to go home.
I know, right? So what's in store for retirement?
A lot of honeydews right now. I'm just going to actually wake up in the morning and not have any responsibility, I hope.
What you going to do with yourself? I mean,
everybody asks that. I think I can find a lot to do.
We're going fishing.
Yeah, me and Senator have in the past done a lot of fishing together, but we're getting ready to do a lot more. Bass fishing, that is.
Bass fishing.
Bass fishing.
Well, that sounds fun. Sounds like you're going to have a good time.
We will.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about you being from Pearl.
Okay.
You were born and raised right here. So tell everybody out there where you were born, and obviously you went to Pearl schools.
Yes, sir. Actually, I went to elementary right here in this building, but I was born and raised right on Pearson and Old Brandon Road there. That pale yellow house that sat there for years and years was my dad's house. And me and my three brothers were raised there, and all of my brothers except my baby brother, my other two older brothers, they went Pearl first through 12 grades here. So we've been here back in the Mr. Bright days, and when they built Oak Park and Pine Park, and all that came after Dad had built here. He came here after World War II when he got out of serving as Air Force pilot, bomber pilot, and he was stationed in Sicily, Italy, and flew bombing missions during World War II. And when the war was over, he had met my mom that was from Mount Olive. My dad was actually from Minot, North Dakota, and that's the reason we spell our names different than like Earl Dean Rhodes and all with the E. Yeah. And he chose to stay here, and he built that house back in the mid-40s and went to work for Knox Glass, which was in Flowood, and had us. And when I was born, I was able to walk to the first grade through the sixth grade here, and then my junior high years were up on Marianne Drive where they had Pearl Junior High. I think they called it McLaurin Junior High. It was kind of funny, but we rode our bikes up there, and then later in high school I was able to walk, because that's not but about, I don't know, 600 yards to my house from here. Yeah, and so we were at school all the time growing up as kids, and enjoyed the wholesome you know, the whole world was way different back then.
Oh,
but
yeah.
man, Pearl was one great place to grow up. It was actually a great place. You know, the lackeys, Mr. Ernest Lackey that lived on the corner, and Mr. Volunteer had the big 2-story White House there at Old Brandon and Pearson Road, and then you had Varner's Grocery. That was the grocery right there across from where the Holders lived, and we all lived right.
Shop now.
Yeah, it's
There's
a pawn shop now.
right
It
now,
used to
right.
be. It used to be a grocery.
Yeah.
And it was great. You know, everybody ran and raved and run the streets. But everybody, what was crazy back then is Mr. Lackey just as soon see me messing up, he would pull me to the side and tear my tail up, and you know, give me a whipping. And then I prayed to him and begged him not to call and tell
Please
my
don't
daddy
tell
he
my
had
daddy.
to whip me. So you know, things have changed a whole bunch since then. But it kept us all out of Parchman. Yeah, so
I think you were telling a story kind of off camera about you and Dan Wyndham
yes,
and riding from junior high on your bicycles and.
Jake's daddy, Jake Wyndham, Mayor of Pearl, which it does really just a fantastic job Jake's done since he's been here as mayor, and he's a great guy. But me and his dad were close friends, Dan. And Dan grew up over on Country Club Road over here. Well, that wasn't no piece from Pearson Road. You know, we'd ride our bikes back and forth and all and hang out, and Pig Boy on Country Club Road and Larry Grant. And I mean, you know, that's some of the guys that are 70, 80 years old now, but Dan was a real close friend. And when Jake became mayor, he would ask me sometimes stuff, and you know, I always wanted to help Jake any way possible because I knew his dad so well, and we were close friends, and Jake knew that.
Right. And then y'all decided to try to wound yourselves by seeing how fast you could ride downhill from the junior high.
Oh
not
yeah,
hitting cars.
well, you know, the thing is, from Marianne Drive to Pearson Road was a long ways coming home. So one of us would go down to the stop sign there at Pemberton and Old Brandon Road, and made sure, because you had to stop when you come off that big hill. So we'd get a good speed going and come down through there, and then they'd just be waving on. They didn't have to stop. So
Nobody pull out, please.
So once you had a good speed on that bicycle going, you could coast almost down here behind McLaurin Martin, just keep coming. The grade kept falling, you know, and get to Patton Place and stuff. You could at least get to Patton Place.
Sure,
you didn't
before it flattens out.
That's right, before it flattened out. And but those were the fun days. Those were the fun days.
It does sound like it was.
It was. I mean,
You know, the mayor was quite an athlete himself, and his two brothers were great athletes as well. But you know, I coached Gary. I coached for several years, but the first year I coached, I was 20 years old, and I coached Mayor Rhodes.
Did you really?
Yes. And
baseball.
And we won it all too, didn't we?
Sure did.
Yeah, and had fun doing it. He could throw the ball harder than anyone I ever coached. Unfortunately, he threw it at batters.
You just didn't know where it was going.
No control whatsoever.
We tried it in practice, and I think he hit 3 in a row. So finally, I thought, well, you know, he'll be okay. Well, no. Put him in a game. I think he hit the first 3 batters. Hit one of them in the head, I think.
Yeah. Oh my!
Well, they were tough.
But he was
back
a great
then.
athlete. I mean, he really was, not just in baseball.
That's
but all
fun.
sports.
Those are some fun stories.
Yeah, they were. The good thing the statute of limitations is out because Jean, Dean's late wife, was real good friends with me, and her were super close friends together because I guess we both pretty opinionated, you know, and didn't mind telling you. And I bless her heart. She would tell me, Gary Rhodes, you need that, you know, and I'd say, oh, Gene, we'd get to arguing back and forth. For one,
they loved each other.
One very sweet woman. But she was a little older than Dean.
Yeah, she was 21. I was just 20 when I was
They
coaching.
say y'all both married
She-
older.
oh yeah, she was a few months older than me, so I married her. Same class and all. Just
We were
yeah.
at practice one day, and he knew that you could almost see my house from the baseball fields
from right
here,
over
where the
here.
library's at now.
Right.
And you know, I said, Dean, I said I need to run to the house and get a shot because since I've been 10, I've been a type 1 diabetic, you know. So he was always kind of watching him and Larry Carr, and they were kind of watching. Well, Jean had just got her SS Camaro, brand spanking new, and I said, can I?
Probably had 300 miles on it.
Yeah. I said, can I run to the house there? And so once I went to the house, I kind of went joyriding, and about, I don't know, an hour and a half later, I came back. The statute of limitations.
He stole my car.
I just took his car riding, wind up going all up McLaurin Martin, riding around.
Wow.
And
He had a
what
good
was
time.
I, 13, 14?
You were 14.
14, okay. Well, I wasn't quite 15, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the.
And I got really worried about him. Not so much the car. I knew I was going to catch the devil if he had a wreck, but
Sure.
I was worried about him. And then he comes pulling in and smiling all over.
Of course.
Where have you been? Everywhere.
Everywhere.
He didn't
All
lie
over
at all.
Pearl?
He's always been honest. He told me exactly where he'd been and what he did.
Rode all
year
over.
would,
Pearl.
what year would that have been?
Oh,
Let's
good
see,
gracious.
1365.
I think it's say
66,
66,
66.
65, 66.
somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, 66,
counting?
60, maybe 60.
Nobody now, right?
But-
But just for our viewers,
But let me tell you, of course, I said, okay, well, you're going to run for that.
Oh yeah.
And he said, really? I said, oh, yeah. And this big field out there.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you run till I tell you to stop.
till
Well,
you
he
get
said,
tired.
yes, sir. And he takes off running. Well, he runs and he runs and he runs. And I'm thinking, well, he's going to quit here in a minute, after he'd made that big lap
Yeah,
two or
yeah.
three times. And
Yeah.
anyway, I started thinking, well, he went home to get a shot because he's diabetic. I'm going to sit here and
I'm gonna kill him.
yeah, I'm going to kill him. And so I said, that's enough. He said, okay, if you want me to run more, I will. It was worth it.
It was worth it.
It was working.
Can I use it again?
You're right. Can I take it now?
That's right.
That's
But
pretty funny.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
That's
fun.
pretty
And
funny.
he had a good group. That was a good group you played
Sure
with.
was.
And yeah, a lot of the guys that you would know, they've been Pearl policemen and everything
That's
else. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's, as a matter of fact, the All-Star team, Foster was on it too. So
That's
we
right.
had
Jimmy Foster,
Yeah,
Lloyd
Foster.
Fairley.
You're right.
mayors and preachers and everything else on
That's
that
right.
team. Good group.
But you had to, the name of our team was what was hilarious.
Oh yeah,
On our jersey it said Walgreens,
no, Wardlaws.
Wardlaw
drugs.
Yeah,
Wardlaw- Okay.
pill
And
pushers. Isn't that what it had?
Yeah,
Pill
pill
pushers.
pushers. That's what they were. Hey, that's what they wanted. They paid for the jersey.
They
Yeah.
paid for it and they
That's
wanted
what
it
they
over
wanted.
there. So Wardlaw's pill pushers.
That's
yeah,
right.
they were in McLaurin Bar. It's a good drugstore.
It was.
That's pretty funny, actually. Looking
Pill
back
pushers.
on it now.
Yeah.
You couldn't get away with that today.
There's a lot you can't get away with today.
We had so much fun, though.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Ted Giordano taught me into doing that. And,
Sure did.
And I'm so glad. I'm grateful that I did. It was a learning experience for me.
Sounds fun.
It made me decide I didn't want to be a coach.
Right, anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, but I did it several years after they were the boys club and all. It was fun. But
Right.
yeah, he was fun to coach, and we became very close. And Art of this day is one of my very best friends, and I'm very
That's
glad
fantastic.
and appreciate him and all he's done, not just for Flowood, but for Rankin County and
As a
Pearl.
whole, sure.
He was, I pulled him over one time. He was a policeman. He just became
Well,
a
I was
policeman.
just fixing to ask, how did you become in law enforcement? How did that happen?
Well, it's a long story, but when me and my wife got married, of course, she was the Baptist preacher's daughter at Flowood, and Brother Marcus, my father-in-law back then, heck, he was there for like 25, 26 years. Most of the people that went to Flowood Baptist were from Pearl, because Flowood didn't have that many people, but a lot
Right.
of them came from Pearl. And I wound up meeting her, but how I became a policeman, I was actually, when I got through playing ball at Hines, I played football at Hines with Jimmy Foster, and actually me and Jimmy met each other probably in the 7th grade, and we wind up, which we played ball together in 7th and through junior high, and then we played high school ball together, and then we wind up graduating together, and we wind up going to Hines, and we were roommates on the football team out there, and we played 2 years out there, and then about a year after that, we wind up joining the police department within a month, Pearl Police Department, within a month of each other.
Wow.
And just, you know, we've been friends for life. And but how I became a policeman was I was working for a company down in Patterson, Mississippi in Claiborne County. And I didn't know that, you know, they had a real good story. I met their son, and they had a real good story about, you know, they had this farm in operation and in this wood business and everything. Well, I had no idea I was going to a pulpwood yard. But it was down in Patterson, Mississippi. We were down there, and I was, you know, unloading pulpwood trucks. And of course, I just came out of football. I was pretty strong, and still healthy and everything. Yeah, my wife, she wound up getting a job in Minnie Bell Funeral Home in Port Gibson, Mississippi, driving caskets back and forth and bodies to Vicksburg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we, you know, we was entrepreneurs, you know, no doubt. We came up here one Sunday to listen to her daddy and visit, you know, and listen to the sermon and everything. And after lunch that day, we went over to the DeVille movie theater. And Don Bailey, which is a Pearl, grew up here and everything. Don and Nancy Bailey were there at the DeVille Cinema and at a movie. So we watched a movie that afternoon when we were walking out. And he said, Gary, what are you doing? And I told him where we was at, and we had a little place down there and everything. He said, well, I joined the police department. And I said, what? He said, yeah, I joined the police department. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, what'd you do that for? He said, well, it's hometown. They're looking for hometown boys and everything. I said, what do they pay? He said, they start you off at $550 a month. I said, you kidding me? He said, yeah, you need to come up and put your thing in. I said, man, I ain't making $500 a month in a wood yard, and I'm talking about working.
Right.
And you're going to make that riding around in an air-conditioned car? So I came up, interviewed with Eugene Adcock and Toby Woods, and they hired me, and wound up, I wasn't 21 yet. I wasn't going to be 21 till 74. And June of 74, and they hired me in March. So I wound up going to the Highway Patrol Academy, or the training academy out here at Whitfield for like, I think it was 8 weeks in, maybe 6 weeks, but stayed out there all the time except they let you go on Saturday afternoon. You had to be back Sunday afternoon. And I wound up going and joined the Pearl Police Department in March of 1974. And was really enjoyed the career here. I stayed as a patrol officer. I stayed on the midnight shift when I first started because I figured if I'm, you know, all the brass is gone, I can keep everything. But Pearl was really different back then, man. You stop somebody and the only law out here was Ernest Burnham and Jiggs Purvis.
Yeah,
you remember Mr. Purvis?
Huh? Max Baker was a deputy
That's right.
there for a while.
That's right. And, you know, back then when you stopped somebody, what are you stopping me for? You know, it was a learning process for us all.
It had just become a city.
Yeah,
right.
November of 73, it just became a city. And anyway, that's how I got in law enforcement. I got to where I loved it because it was it's more of a, not a position of authority to me. It was always that, being the mayor, being the police chief was a position of being a servant. And you know, I've always liked, believe it or not, my wife tells me sometimes you're a sucker for abuse, but I like to listen to people, and if I can, I try to help them. And I told somebody one time when I was police chief, some of my guys that were working for me, I said, you know how many tickets I wrote the whole time I've been in law enforcement? And I said, they said, no, sir. And it was like almost 16 years I was in law enforcement. I said, 26. And all 26 begged me for the ticket. They got out of the car. They come running back there and said, "What are you stopping me for?" or whatever. You know, and it was all about how they, you know, I do nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. I was always giving, hey man, if you slow down a little bit, you know, or come on, get in the car with me. Let's lock your car up. I was too much probably the guy that wanted to help you out. Now I did lock up some, and they probably still alive, might be still serving time in Parchment.
They needed to be.
But
right.
You know, I wind up doing that to until
well, I was going to ask.
81.
You were police chief of Flowood for how long?
From 81 to 89.
81 to 89.
So I spent 7.5 years here at Pearl, and then 1981, the state legislature passed the Minimum Standards Act, to where you couldn't drive a garbage truck. You had to have training to be a policeman. You had to go and get training at the Highway Patrol Academy or some academy and be accredited that you knew something about being a police officer. So they hired me over there to come and do that and put a police department together. And we had a small police department. I think at the most I had about 15. Today we have like 55 patrolmen.
Right.
You know, but I enjoyed it, and the men were great, and the people, young guys that worked and we hired and everything worked for Flowood. They, you know, they had good sense about them.
Now at that time, you guys would have been located over by the steel place.
Right.
Right? Right off of Flowood Drive?
No, Mayor Flint and all had City Hall there. He had just built, I think it was 85 or 86, he built that fire/police department on Lakeland Drive.
That's right.
He built, and we had a little small police department there. And then on the other side had the fire department.
That's right. I remember that now. I was thinking City Hall was in a little...
Back before that, they housed the fire truck in the chicken barn on Lakeland Drive at Miss Frances Jones' farm. So, you know,
in the chicken barn.
I remember when
right.
Backed it up in the chicken barn, and that was a temporary fire department. So,
oh my God.
Well, Mayor Flint built that in '86. There, just past Jackson Prep.
Yeah.
That fire station and all that. It was a police and fire.
Yeah, right. So what made you decide to run for mayor?
Mayor Flint was very, he was a very planning type guy, vision type guy, and he called me down one day, and I always came down and sat down in front of his desk, and we would talk, and he always wanted to talk about water lines or sewer lines. First time he ever introduced me to Mr. Hogue, you know, that owned Valley Foods and everything. He said, come down to this meeting. Well, they were talking about taking River Oaks Hospital had just been built. It was like 88. And you had Mississippi Valley Foods over here that had their lagoon. Well, they was trying to get the hospital to open, and Flowood hadn't gotten all their lines in, collectorate lines into the West Rankin sewer yet. So I'm in a meeting, and Mayor is trying to hustle Mr. Hogue to put River Oaks sewer in their lagoon.
Oh.
Yeah. So it could get open. So it was open that way for like 3 months. And I'm sitting there, what is the police chief doing in this negotiations of sewer and utilities? But he called me down to his office one day, and he said, he was sitting behind his desk. He said, Chief, you ever considered running for mayor? And I looked at him and I said, Mayor, all due respect, I said, I have a criminal justice degree, and I despise politics. And he just got to laughing about it. And he kept on and said, no, you need to think about it, So the two people that I was running against at the time was great people. And they said, look, if we make it, we want you to still stay on, be our police chief. And it was a very friendly election. And I happened to win gracefully by a pretty good margin in '89. And I got elected then and went to work as mayor. Didn't have a clue. I thought mayors went around and kissed babies and played golf all the time. I thought, my gosh.
Surprise.
Of course, you know, it wasn't nothing like it is today.
Sure.
Because you had this little Motorola first cell phone. It came out like this right here, it's about this long, you know, and we didn't have Facebook and all that to where we could be unanimous and just talk about everybody in the world. And of course, I don't have Facebook today. And you know, if they want to call, I'd be glad to talk to them. Don't, you ain't got to put it and hide behind the keyboard.
I know, right?
But that's the reason I got to get out of
Don't
this.
you just love that?
Yeah. Well, my wife has Facebook and shit. Yeah, she says, I want you to look at this.
Keep you informed.
Yeah, I don't want to look at that. But anyway, I got elected in '89, and by the grace of God, and I went unopposed the next 8 terms.
Which is incredible.
Well, it was.
Well,
I don't know.
Flowood's had 2 mayors. Became a city in 52. Did you
3.
say? 53.
53.
They had 2 mayors. And they've both been fantastic.
Right. That's really a testament to both of their leadership,
Well, I don't
and
know.
yours especially to bring it to this point.
I always say at the ribbon cuttings and everything when I used to go all the time, that the good Lord's blessed Flowood. Anything good that happens in the world today is good Lord blessing it. It's not by man, because we done got to where we ain't got enough sense to get up and put our pants on right in the morning without an opinion. But you know,
Very true. Very true. So, when you took over, Flowood, I remember, I graduated high school in '87 and went off to Ole Miss.
yes,
But I remember, and we've talked a little bit about this, even when I was a boy coming through Flowood, it was dirt roads. Lakeland was 2-lane. You know, once you got across the river bridge right there from Jackson, headed east or headed anywhere in Rankin County, it was 2-lane or gravel.
it was.
And there just
Come a
wasn't
long ways.
just wasn't much there. And we're talking about that bait shop on the corner of Flowood and
Right.
basically Lakeland, which was right there. All that was just grass, field, and
Cows grazing.
cows grazing.
Mayor's done a great job.
Since then, the vision that you put forth, kind of walk us through your thought process. How did you see Flowood coming together, and did it happen as you planned it? Which I know
Well,
the answer is no.
no.
But
No,
walk us
but-
through that.
Well,
Through
a lot
these years.
A lot of it was I was fortunate enough to be there 8 years as police chief, and you know we don't sit on the interstate. Most of your developments are retail developments, and that was what was so hard dealing with that. I wasn't on the interstate. You know, Brandon, Pearl, Ridgeland, Madison, Jackson, all had the advantage of a interstate. Well, I saw the amount of traffic that was coming up and down the 8 years I was police chief, and it was getting greater and greater and greater as Castle Woods and Mill Creek, and even grew out. Now you got Hollybush and
Yeah,
all
all the
that
way
area.
out,
It's
right.
just about another whole town out there,
Sure.
past
Headed
471.
to Pisgah.
And what we did was basically it was built off of infrastructure. The city wind up in 89, 90, 91, getting some federal funds and stuff, and tying on Castle Woods to sewer. They used to have, you know, where they pumped out on the golf course all the time. That would not absorb in January, February, and it'd wind up coming here in the Mill Creek, which went into reservoir, which was Jackson's surface drinking water. So it wasn't the best scenario. So I went to Washington, started getting infrastructure along with the state, getting water and sewer lines. Today, we have more water and sewer customers than the city of Ridgeland. And they're not all in Flowood. All that growth between Old Fenton Road, North Woods, Bell Grove, anything that's not state property, we sewer, water and sewer. And that's over 14,000 customers.
That's a lot,
That's a lot. And
especially outside of the actual
yeah,
city boundary.
right. But that's how that growth happened, was through our utilities. because we have always had a good water and sewer department and everything.
Well, something people may not know is the fact that you reduced ad valorem taxes by 9 mils in the 90s. And I'm one of those proponents. If you want to stop something, if you want to reduce it, you tax it. Yeah. If you want to increase it, you take taxes off or lower taxes. Yeah. Well, you reduced by 9 mils, which was pretty smart thinking.
The first thing I had to do, the first meeting of July, whatever 1st of 1989, I had to raise taxes by 5.25 mils to meet the debt service. We didn't have enough money to meet the debt service, and we were short. So went and we did it then, and about 2 years later we were able to start chipping at it and reducing it. And today it's 20 mils. In that 20 mils we also supply 2 days a week garbage pickup and everything. The citizens never have paid an additional for garbage pickup and all. And sometimes I wish it worked out. What we did, we kept the tax base low and we grew the city. And off the growth of the city, we wind up, being able to keep the tax base low and steady.
Which has been fantastic.
I remember this may have been the late 80s, early 90s. One time I was talking to you, and I said something about the growth, and you said, yeah, we have like 8,000 people that spend the night in Flowood and 26,000 in the daytime working. That's how commercial business grew.
Now there's about 74,000 going down Lakeland Drive between there and Airport Road.
Every day.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's
they've really managed well.
So what is it right now, population wise?
They said that
how many do you sleep at night, and how many do you work during the day?
Man, there's no telling how many work during the day. One time we had all those figures, but but with Blue Cross Blue Shield, you got River Oaks, Woolman's, Brentwood, and Methodist, 4 hospitals, and then all the other medical that we were able to bring on after we got to retail. We started to narrow in.
And that was his vision on the medical, by the way. He can take full credit for that.
I tell you, I don't want to take credit. The good Lord gets all the credit. But one thing that was good, when Phil Bryant was elected, the first thing he did before he took office was got all the hospital people together, University, Baptist, St. D, and all that, got them all together, and we went out to Houston, spent 2 days to see what they did. And the legislature came back with this Medical Zone Act, which was a fantastic bill, and
let me say, we did it, but he requested it. He and the governor.
So, well, it was, but just something to stimulate, growth, because we went from retail, and I figured Flowood was originally found on industrial with the Knox glass, the Mississippi Steel, now Nucor Steel, and all that. It was originally found Catafolk and all those different plants that were there. It was originally found on industrial, and then Mayor Flint had the vision to get River Oaks in there and get those doctors, and he did this. Actually, the city did the financing and all for River Oaks Hospital back years ago. And Woolman's was already there, and it was known to deliver a lot of babies and everything. So that's when we jumped over here and tried to retail, since we had so much traffic going back and forth. And I'll never forget the day we was in the car, and me and Mr. Hogue, Bill Hogue, and he owned a house on top of the hill, and 3 of the 4 corners there at what we call Dogwood. And we were sitting there, and Mr. McRae was in the car with me from McRae's, it used to be here. And he said, Mayor, he said, there was cattle grazing over in that corner. He said, where Chick-fil-A is today. And he pointed, we was in the car, and he said, I'm gonna build a McRae's there with other development, with Jake Aronoff out of Montgomery, Alabama. I didn't know who Jake Aronoff was. I didn't care. I didn't care. So I said, wow, we actually going to get to buy a shirt or a coat or a pair of pants in Rankin County, because all you had back then was Busick's.
And Capital Menswear, maybe.
Busick's and Capital
Menswear right
That's
over
right.
there.
That was
Yeah.
it. That
Right.
was it.
And that was it. And we were buying our clothes all over the metro area.
Right.
Other than, so I said, let's do this. And actually it worked out. We built like, I don't know, 202 is when we opened the Mac Rays up, April 18th of 2002. And 2008 we finished up the last corner. And right before that closure of 2008. So, it's been out there a little over 22, 23 years. Yeah.
So what he's trying to tell you is when he became mayor, the largest retail business was a 300-pound Avon or Mary Kay lady or whatever. And since then, it's gone a long way.
It's gone a long way.
Well,
Right. When you have Mr. McRae out there,
That did it.
that did it.
And Bill Hogue was a man of
Oh,
vision.
yeah,
He was.
right. But
Yeah.
you were building the infrastructure to make that happen.
Right.
And so without infrastructure,
What was
None
going
of
to
that
happen
happened.
was we first went to Washington at me and Carl Rayford. We first went to Washington. You had Castlewoods out here that when they built the West Rankin utility, they said that was just going to be, potential. So they didn't allow us to spend any money to build any lines up there. So we went up there and were able to take those lagoons off Castlewoods and everything and do a gravity line all the way down. But when we first went, it was going to be a force main, which would have left us where Dogwood and Four Corners, the big hole in the donut with no sewer. So we went back up there, and Senator Cochran helped us change, along with Dean, the state legislature helped and all. That was what come out of the investment, was those Four Corners and all. And we usually run either 9th or 10th on state sales tax citywide. We're not top by no means, but we always fall in there between
which
8
is
and-
real good for a city that's not on the interstate.
You're right. And
It's on a state highway.
yeah, it's on a state
It's on
highway.
a state highway.
But it's been a good thing.
Well, I know one of the things it's people are seeing it kind of come out of the ground now is WaterPoint.
Yes, sir.
How did that come about? Tell us the backstory. What do we not know about WaterPoint? How did that come
Well,
about?
Richard Ridgway came, and he had this architect that had designed what they call smart code, and they do this down in Florida and everything, to where everything's laid out from one layer of, okay, here's the infrastructure, here's the streets, here's each layer, and they had a big meeting, and I forget what you call it, lasts for about a week, but people could come in and talk, neighbors, and everybody got involved and flow with what was going on. And it's just now starting. Community Bank built their Class A office space. It's really nice.
Really pretty.
They didn't do without anything on that building. And now they just finished their parking garage. Now they've got homes coming up out here at homes, and it's supposed to be a walking community to where you can walk down to eat and stuff, and nothing's far away that it's not walkable. And they just built a parking garage, which I'd have to say, other than the airport parking garage, is the only garage in Rankin County.
Yeah, it is.
And they built a loft to cover it inside, and the bank's going to use it, and the lofts are of course going to be apartments, but pretty nice, pretty fancy apartments. And you got covered parking and everything. So that came about, and there's some nice restaurants that are waiting on a developer to build them a building that's coming, and be awful nice.
It'll be a nice place.
One thing I had to tell you, we've gotten over the past, it's hard to tell a guy what he can build when he goes and buys a franchise, And we got labeled on the chicken strip there for a while. Well, I bought a franchise, and actually the people that buy those franchises, whether chicken or mine was a Dairy Queen or whatever, they're local owners. that sit right there in their homes and got mortgages and everything. And it'll all even out because there's 3 or 4 more restaurants coming that are sit down restaurants like walk-ons and stuff. They already bought their property and all. But one of the things, Jake we were talking one day and he said, tell me something. He said, you just got your second Chick-fil-A. Hi, Annie. Hey, I can't get one in Pearl. I said, Jake, look, man, I'll send some chicken folks to you. But it gets kind of comical because, you know, the people, as much as, you know, we got to love each other and everything, that's all based, whether it be retail, fine dining, or whatever. It's all based on demographics, okay? Now, I know I don't have a whole lot of household income, but there's a good bit of household income out there. But when they start talking about these different cheesecake factories and all, it gets a little hilarious.
Sure.
You know, because they evidently they got to go out of town one time. They happened to run across one in Atlanta, and I don't think there's anywhere in Mississippi that's Atlanta, but you know, we keep trying. Actually, our today, because he texted me this morning, he got caught, his flight got canceled. I've got our economic community developer out in Vegas, steadily going to meetings trying to recycle retail, and I don't know if that's going to ever happen. That concerns me more than anything. You talking about it. What are we going to do with retail if we all keep going on internet and watching a little brown truck because we ain't got no friends that we know, but we know that brown truck driver better than we know anybody, but that kills your local city and state economy.
the brick and mortar.
The brick and mortar, it kills it, and I've been saying that for years, but you know.
But you guys have managed to do really good navigating through.
Yeah, we've got 1 or 2 places. We got the Steinmark, and we had a big nice store coming in that generated a lot of, and then it kind of went to the wayside, and now here it's back trying to work again. But you know, those deals, putting those deals together, the government is slow. Don't ever think government's fast. The fastest thing I've seen happen is Trump. And he's going so fast, I think the ink might be running out.
He works at a completely different level.
I've done decided that's the best way to work is fast. And just keep going till somebody run into that brick wall. I tell my son, I called it over the years pushing that noodle up the hill or up the wall with your finger. That noodle's going to try to go way over here, and then you got to turn around. You might be all over the wall, but it'll eventually get done if you got time and you stay after it.
Which is what you've been doing.
I
just kept your head down, and
he has,
and look and just to look at Flowood now,
well,
knowing, and especially where just me, because at my age, I remember when Flowood was just a little town, just like Pearl was just a little town.
I would think the hardest thing he'd have to do now is to control it.
Right.
Control the growth.
Is control it.
Right.
And make sure you get the type businesses that you want in Flowood.
Now you've served on several committees. I do want people to know this, and help me understand if I missed one. You served on the board for Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks.
Yes.
You've been on the Merit Health Board. Is there some others that I've missed?
Well,
you've served on several. I know you're on like the hospital board. You're on the Two Lakes Project board. You're on multiple.
Hines Rankin Flood Control, West Rankin Utilities, which is me and Jake and Butch and all were on that board. As just the Mayor of Flowood. We had the East Metro Access Road Board. It was me, Jake, and Butch in the airport. There's been a lot of boards I've been on. None of them paid though.
but you've been able to advise and direct. And one of the things I think that most people in Pearl are looking forward to is the Treetops extension.
The West Rankin
Parkway. West Rankin Parkway.
Oh, that thing's dear. Lord, that's dear. I remember back when.
Please tell us.
I know the beginning of that one.
Mr. Herb Selman. Not Selman.
Robinson.
Robinson. Mr. Herb Robinson that had the oil place right at the end of Beardman Road. He had always wanted it called, it was actually started out the Grand, what was the name? It came out on 80 there. And we got to talking to him.
Not Grand Gulf Road, but
Yeah, it was something Gulf Road. But he actually, years ago, started talking about that, and he got the landowners together. But that thing has had everything from landowner participation, Flowwood participation, Pearl participation, Rankin County participation, state MDOT participation, and actually was in a meeting this morning. And hopefully it's going to get built by the end of the year.
They have the money. It's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just taking us longer. I will tell a story about that. My first term, my second year in the Senate, I think Mayor Rhodes, might have been Foster. I can't remember who the mayor was. Carl Ray Furr and Billy DeVinny and somebody. Anyway, they came to see me and said, and you guys said, this is what we want. This is the vision that we have. DeVinny actually made the statement, if you can do this, and the cities were willing to pay to move utilities and do all that stuff, so it was a good deal for the state as well. But anyway, DeVinny said, if you can do that, I'll build 300 homes with a minimum square footage of 3,000 square feet. Well, that got my attention.
I bet.
And so we pushed that bill hard, and Dick Hall helped me. I got to admit, I think Dick that one year maybe was appropriation chairman or something. But anyway, he helped, and with the mayor's help and others, we passed that bill, and that was like '93, I think. And so now finally, after several resurfacing, moving dirt and lawsuits about drainage and everything else, and with his help and others, we passed. We had to change the law 2 or 3 times to get it, but we have it now, and so it's going to be really, really nice. It's going to take a lot of traffic off Lakeland, off of Airport Road, and it's people are going to not have to have so much traffic. It's going to be really
So
nice.
what do you envision for the Flowwood end of that? How does that develop for you guys?
I don't know. Right now we have it in like agriculture, zoning, and the new administration I know will look at it and try to figure what's the best zoning for it, dealing with the property owners, because you got massive property owners, Billy DeVinny, Dr. Steve Davison, and Richard Black, which own property in both Flowwood and Pearl. But I lost the train of thought.
Well, we were talking about what do you see that does that become more medical, or does that become more retail, or
I don't know. It comes in. My whole deal was every time you build a road, you open up economic development. My whole deal was the issues we've had with the stack, whether it be wintertime and ice on the stack. We on this side of Jackson do not have a way to go north and south around Jackson. This at least you can come off of I-20 if you got an ice problem or you got a diesel rig turned over or whatever, come down this, hit Lakeland and go back around.
And that road, of course, will go all the way to Florence, as you know.
Right.
Right.
So it's going to be very nice, and the new bridge that we just put up.
Technically, you come off of
Road,
49 and take it straight into Flowwood.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
It's going to be very, very nice.
And then you could go into Jackson from there and take Old Canton Road north if you needed to.
You got to remember, I'm not on an interstate, but I got to have access to interstate. That's the reason the East Metro was so important. The airport road, when they did the flyover, is so important. The Pearson Road, Treetops, West Rankin Extension here is so important because it's pulling off of 55 and 20.
So in 30 years, you've tentacled yourself to the
East Rankin and West Rankin Parkway.
Yeah, you've tentacled yourself to the interstate.
Right. Well, you had to. And, my deal was I always thought this, and this is kind of the Rankin County thinking part of it. But I was born and raised in Pearl. Pearl's always my hometown. Well, if you're gonna come down I-55 and say, okay, I can go over here to Flowwood, I can go up Lakeland, hit East Metro, and come to Brandon. Well, I'm going to end my trip by going back down 20 to Pearl. It's keeping that traffic all kind of turned
in a
around
box.
and coming through our three sister cities and Richland, but tying Pearl, Flowood, and Brandon together by a big, huge square is moving a lot. There's a lot of traffic moving.
That's
around.
a lot of traffic moving there.
And it's creating for the outlet mall, for Dogwood, for the new plans they got in Brandon for us.
This is that rising tide theory, raises all boats, right?
Just get them all going.
The good things are happening in not just Flowood, but in Pearl, Brandon.
Sure
all
they
of
are.
Rankin
Plays off
County.
of each other,
Yeah,
right?
And
Definitely
you
do.
know, I know you've heard me say this before, but one thing about Rankin County and the reason for its success is because of some of the leadership that it has.
Absolutely.
And that leadership working together. We just left a meeting this morning with some supervisors, mayors, legislators, county officials. We meet and we talk.
That Rankin
and,
County delegation again.
and we try
right.
to help each other.
Right.
What do you need? What can I do to help you? One city helping the other city.
That's
not
right.
fighting each other.
Right.
And it's worked
Well, except
out.
on football Friday nights.
oh yeah.
That's different.
But the sad thing is, and I don't know, it's sad on my part sometimes. Once a pirate, always a pirate.
Sure,
You know.
sure.
Yeah.
Now, as I said in the beginning of this meeting, he was really a good athlete.
Yeah.
He really was, but he had two brothers that were as well. Glenn, who started at Mississippi State at End, was a great high school player at Pearl and at Mississippi State, and then Wayne, who they called the headhunter because Wayne Rose would hurt you. and
Is that the oldest brother?
No, that's,
That's-
between me and my oldest.
Oh, okay.
I'm
And
number
he
3.
started at Alabama.
Alabama.
Wow.
Bear Bryant.
So
Did
yeah,
he really?
played for Bear. So it runs in the family.
It runs in the family.
Yeah.
Well, it's good character
Yeah.
that runs in the family,
No,
apparently.
you go.
let me tell you what, those Pearl coaches make good character. Those coach, Danny Neely, that not only I watched him play when I was a little kid, he played with my oldest brother, Glenn, and he was quarterback for Pearl and everything. And I had the opportunity for him to coach me at Pearl, and then he wound up going to Hines with me for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a coach.
Hey,
Well, it's amazing, and I'm just sitting here putting this together, and this is just off the cuff with you two gentlemen, but it's amazing the impact that the men in Pearl in the early years, back in the 40s, and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, the impact that those men had on your lives
No, absolutely.
that have
They did.
impacted Flowood and Brandon, and now are impacting, coming full circle back to Pearl.
That's right.
That's amazing that this little city right here, that wasn't a city at that time, which was basically East Jackson, has played such a large role in literally the county.
Oh, it has.
This little place.
Like you said earlier, most people that live in Brandon came from Pearl. Most people probably live in Flowood came from Pearl.
Sure.
but, you
Or
know,
trace their roots back to it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's right. Or their parents did, or something.
Right.
But it's been a wonderful place, and like I said, once a pirate, always a pirate. I always look at and I always admire. Man, we would get on. After a Friday night football game for 8 years, I had to get in the car the next morning. Wherever state was playing, we went. Wherever Alabama was playing the next 4 years, because we were all 4 years apart. So I could be all bruised up from Friday night. My dad would make a bedding in the back seat of the car and say, "All right, son, I know you bruised up and you're hurting. We got to go to Knoxville today." And then we'd leave like 4 o'clock in the morning to go to a 1 o'clock game. And, they were playing Tennessee or whatever.
Right.
So people say a lot of times, "Man, you don't ever go to college games." I went 8 years and didn't miss a college, between Mississippi State playing 4 years and Alabama 4 years.
Wow. You didn't miss a college game.
No.
I think I'll
No.
pass now.
Yeah,
I've had my
I think I'm
fill.
gonna watch it on TV to where I can stop and start. You know?
Right. So, all right, Mayor, what would you say in your tenure from your entire professional career, even going back to the pulpwood yard, what are you most proud of, looking back?
What am I most proud of?
What would you say? What's one thing that stands out in your mind that you're just, hey, I'm very proud of that?
Well, I would say probably my family, my wife. You know, being married 52 years, I kind of brag about that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I brag about it, and you know, we started off young, and she's been a partner, and I mean, you know, Dean knows what I'm talking about because he had the same thing with Gene all those years. But it's just learning from growing up in Pearl. I learned how to be humble, and I learned how to be a servant. Yeah. And that wasn't nothing but young raising in a community that cared about you. And like I said, I'm not kidding. We get out cutting up or something, don't think your mom and daddy's friend wouldn't pull you over and whop you on the tail a couple times and say, you want me? I mean, straighten up. And it was such a, I can't say everything's not a lot easier now and all this and that, but you learned how to work and how to respect other people. And that's the reason I've got to go home, is the fact that, you know, I'm old enough to go home, and I don't want to have to be told I got to go home, but I want to spend, you know, the rest of my life with her, and because she's been a partner. She got the blunt of all this, you know, all these deals that 1 minute, what was so crazy, somebody would walk in the office and they'd want to talk about the garbage can not being placed properly in their yard. It was in the wrong spot, and I need to put it. And the next meeting I would have would be an $85 million expansion of Ergon, right, or a $100 million expansion of their World Corporation. It would go from A to Z. And when I'd get home, you know, and it's a sad thing I say, you say, what are you proud of? There's a lot of things I'm probably not proud of, because I think pride really puts you in a predicament. Sometimes you get to thinking you're somebody, and
right,
you know, you don't treat people right. But I think the biggest thing that I'm glad I participated in was being a servant to people. I looked at being a Pearl policeman, being a chief of police, and being the mayor as a servant, and you know, not no, you did this, you did that, because this old boy didn't do anything. I always kid everything. People talk about their education, how great an education. Of course, I went to Hines, then went to Southern, but I always say I went to Pearl University, and it taught me a lot more about life than you will ever understand.
Right.
It was just the genuine, you know, and
don't you wish we could get back to that?
Oh gosh, wouldn't it be?
Wouldn't the kids be so much better off?
Oh yeah.
Wow. But you know, it's not going to happen. So we either got to go like I'm going home, or either change. And I'm too hard-headed to change.
Well, he's changed. He has changed, and he's changed a lot of things in this, in their city, and this state as well. Yeah. So yeah, he's made a difference. And I think, if anything, on your tombstone someday in 30 more years, you should say he made a difference.
Service.
It made a difference.
Well, serving other people.
Is that how you want to be remembered? Your legacy going out?
Yeah, I made a difference. It might not have been the right difference,
but you made one.
You
made a great difference.
Look, I just, I just always want to be able to help somebody. That's what I always enjoyed about the job. It wasn't, you know what was great about my job was I'd have a Mayor's Cup 2-day golf tournament every year, and it would, because being unopposed, I didn't have to have a bunch of fundraisers.
Right.
You know, I never hit people up. So come time for, you know, Cancer Society or Diabetes Foundation or whoever I was doing that year, I'd call folks up. And since I didn't hit them up all the time, they'd say, oh yeah, we'll write you a check for the Mayor's Cup. Well, this last year, we did Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA. We gave them, after expenses and everything, $128,000 2 days. Wow. We had over 100 teams play in 2 days. Wow. and operated it at the refuge, and we paid the refuge
To use the facility.
To use the facility. Sure did.
They didn't donate it. You paid it.
No, it didn't cost the city anything. But what I always enjoyed was doing benefits like that
Yes.
over all the years to raise money for a cause.
Sure.
And that's what to me was fun. Just putting a deal together I guess the most enjoyable part of being mayor was putting, the deals together.
Sure.
They say, "Oh no, we can't come. You can't do that." I heard that on the conference center. So many, everybody from state, county, ranking first,
Sheridan.
everybody got on. Board of Supervisors, everybody came in together for the conference center out on Airport Road and that deal, working together.
Right. Got it done.
Yeah.
I said earlier, Rankin is good at that.
Yes,
They
they
are.
They
are.
work together. It makes a difference.
Well,
And he's made a difference.
I have thoroughly enjoyed
I have too.
this
You know,
conversation, getting to know more about you other than just being mayor of Flowood.
Let me tell you, I was thinking about this on the way over here. The only time that I've been on TV was when Mama carried us over to WLBT
Yeah, right.
for Captain Kangaroo when I was 5 years old.
Yep.
So I sure hope this turns out as well as that one did.
Well, it's gonna. I hope it does too. 'Cause I want people to see this and to get to know you better and
Yes, sir.
appreciate your service of all the years that you've done.
I just appreciate
I
the people.
appreciate you coming here
and
today.
both
Oh,
of
yeah.
you gentlemen, and I love him over there. And
Oh, he's
see him all the time and appreciate him
Thank
so
you.
much, and thank you so much for what you've done,
yes, sir.
especially coming and paying a little homage to our little show that we do every single week.
Yes, sir.
I think we've learned a lot
Well-
about Gary Rhodes.
Well,
I do
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thank
and
you very
Flowood.
And Flowood,
Yeah.
right. I mean, we're all just in one big pot over here.
that's right. We are.
And it's really interesting how you framed it. I appreciate that very much. Thank
Thank
guys.
you, buddy.
Thank you. All right, we're going to step aside, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the city of Pearl. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Welcome back into This Week in Pearl. I'm your host, Frank Hutton, and that was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed having a conversation with Gary, getting to know him a little bit better, understanding where he, growing up here in Pearl, and telling some of the backstories and the fun stories, and being an athlete, and just all the things that you don't really get to know of our elected officials until you have a conversation like that. And I want to tell him how much we do appreciate him coming on this show and sharing about what it's been like in his professional life and his early life. And thank you so much for doing that, Gary. We wish you all the best. Thank you very much. And thanks, Dean, for doing that as well, bringing him in. All right, so what's going on in Pearl? Well, election's coming up. It's just around the corner for mayor and alderman, so you definitely want to be sure and do that. You can vote in person absentee any day of the week right now, right up until the end of the month, inside the city clerk's office. That's between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. You can come vote in person absentee if you like. Also, the last 2 weekends of the month of May, you can vote on Saturday in the clerk's office from 8 a.m. to noon. So that's in-person absentee voting only. You can do that in the clerk's office from now until the election. All right, Main Street Pearl, Midtown Summer Concert Series, wide open, full swing. Dead in the middle of it is a free concert that happens every Friday evening out on the green space They're right next door to Senior Services. So if you come off of Parkway Drive between Ballantyre and Beardeman, and Parkway Drive, that green space area right across from the Water Department and Senior Services, that area is where that happens. It is the Midtown Summer Concert Series. I believe this Friday night it is going to be Lukenbach, which is a Willie Nelson tribute band, and that starts at 7 p.m. Food trucks are here. Bring a lawn chair so you can have a seat out here and listen to the band. Be great. And then there's games and things that you can play. I think they play cornhole and some mini golf and all kinds of things that are going on out there during that. That is the Main Street Pearl Midtown Summer Concert Series. Also, the Mud Monsters still are in full swing. They are in a homestand right now, but they will then be traveling, I think, most of this week. But definitely want to pick up tickets and go see the Mud Monsters baseball right here in Pearl, Mississippi. A lot of fun. I really like the uniforms. I like the teal color. I think it's really cool, and that they are a catfish. So go see the mascot. His name is Fish, by the way. Anyway, thank you for joining us for this edition of This Week in Pearl. I've had a great time today. Thanks again to Senator Dean Kirby and Mayor Gary Rhodes. Until next time, y'all have a great week. See you next time.